Counterpunch promo live. Counterpunch promo live in 3, 2, 1.
Live from the Counterpunch Studios in Grand Blanc, Michigan, it's time for real lives, real families, real fitness. It's time for Derek Noel Fitness.
What's up, and welcome to the very first episode of Derek Noel Fitness. I am your host. Well, I'm Derek Noel. It's, Derek Noel Fitness. This is my live show. Thank you very much for tuning in today. I'm really excited for this opportunity. I just wanted to take a second to thank the people who made this possible. Sir Matt with IPMNation.com. Brian Brody, who originally brought me in as the fitness guy on his show. I may or may not give him a plug now. You should definitely check him out. He's on the mornings, All Natural Being at 7 a.m. on IPM Nation, as well as a couple other places. And, of course, the producer, as I see in the show, my dad, Wayne, who helps out with IPM Nation as well. He doesn't like being in front of the camera, but he's definitely getting pretty dang good at being behind it. So I just wanted to, before I got started with everything, give them a huge shout out and thank them very much for allowing me and making this opportunity possible, because it's awesome. I honestly never thought I was going to get a chance to do something like this. It feels really good. I was a computer science major, fresh out of high school, went to do my computer science stuff at Michigan Tech, came along and blew up about 70-something pounds when I was up at Michigan Tech. Let me just say that 2 chocolate milkshakes, an entire pizza, and tater tot casserole a day will definitely make the weight go on. From there, I left, and I became, and I should say, through all of this, I was kind of involved in fitness. When I was in high school, I learned how to work out after the biggest kid on the football team was outrunning me in 10th grade, and I realized I was not in football shape, so I decided I was going to do something about it. And that's going to be a recurring theme, is doing something about it. You'll see that probably in every single episode. You should always be able to take action on those things. But I came back, played Ultimate Frisbee up at Michigan Tech, didn't realize that I was having a hard time running because I was 240-something pounds. So that was a kind of a shell shock when I weighed myself when I came back. Ended up going to culinary school, which was a nice little change. And in culinary school, which sounds really ironic, but that's actually where my weight loss journey began. I used to be 240-something pounds. I'm walking around at 175 right now. The lowest I've been is about 155, but that was not a healthy lower weight, which I'll also get to talk about going through these shows. Real quick, thank you to the people watching right now. If you have any comments, by the way, this is a live show, so feel free, send them down. I am being a millennial and using my cell phone for any comments. Of course, that is for the stream. If you're listening on audio, I still really appreciate you turning in. Every little ounce of support will definitely make sure that this goes a long way. But one of the things that I had to deal with when I was coming back from and going to culinary school was, number one, delicious food is almost, I shouldn't say always bad for you, but delicious food can be very, very bad for you, especially if you are learning how to cook in the traditional French cuisine style, which uses a ton of butter. If you're going in the baking side, tons of sugar, all of these things that really aren't the best for you. Are they as bad for you as doctors and all of these supposed studies that are coming out? Even though a lot of that stuff is social media and rent a personal trainers or like Instagram models who think that they're super big stars with training and everything like that. There's a lot of disinformation about fats and things like that, which I found out too as I was learning how to do all these things, because I definitely hit my own walls, and I had to figure out how to get around them. Again, just because there's something there does not mean that you cannot get around it. You can go under, you can go around, you can go over. really good book is The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. I'm sure I'm going to be talking about that too, but that is an entire episode's worth of content just in those things. But let's talk about some of these myths that I had to overcome. And remember, these shows are only going to be 30 minutes, so I'm going to try and fit as much content as I can as possible into everything, but sometimes I might miss something. So what I would like for you to do is make sure that you are following my page on Facebook. You can find that at the Derek Noel. You can find me at dereknoelfitness.com. I'm sure there will be links on there, probably not tonight, but very shortly through the week. And I'm also going to be posting extra content videos as well. So if there's something that's a little more complicated that I know is going to take too much time, I'll make sure that I make a separate video for that, so you'll still have the ability to go in and learn and see. And if you're watching on video right now, I hope you get really used to seeing finger guns and hand gestures, because I am filled with those. Anyone who has had the honor of having me as a coach and talking here at Grand Blanc Fit Body Bootcamp. By the way, another shout out to my boss, Brian Calique, the owner of Grand Blanc Fit Body Bootcamp, where I'm broadcasting out of, where I've had the pleasure of coaching many people through the past 2 years, growing some great relationships, growing myself as a coach quite a bit. I think back to some of those times 2 years ago, and I can understand why some people had some doubts, but just thank you to everyone who has been here at Grand Blanc Fit Body Bootcamp with me over the past 2 years, who has gotten to see me hopefully become a better coach, a better friend, and better person that you interact with on an everyday basis. There are some people who I only talk to literally when you're in this building. There are others that send me messages all the time. I try and reply to everyone that I can, because that's what I like to do. I was put on this planet to help people, and to help people achieve their goals in regards to healthy fat loss. Notice I said fat loss, and weight loss in some cases, and just becoming a more functional human being, because that's really what I want for everyone, is to become a more functional human being. Doing those movements that you can do as a kid that you haven't been able to do in a long time. If I can get a 45-year-old woman to do a cartwheel like she could when she was 15 or 16, that's a huge victory on my part, because I'm helping you become more functional. Just because you're getting older doesn't mean you can't do things. And that's something that I hope to get across. Let's talk about some of the things that I ran into when I was losing my weight. Like I said, I've lost about 70 pounds. And the number one thing on that list is definitely outworking a bad diet. Everybody thinks that you can, and if you go on Instagram and you look at some of these people who have six-packs, who have abs for days, who have giant, really nice-looking booties, because I know we all look at those sometimes, men or women, those people, some of them, and they promote it, they will go out and they will eat Pop-Tarts, and they will eat a whole pizza, and you have The Rock, The Rock honestly does a really good job at that, is he posts his cheat meals or his off-plan meals, but he also makes it a point to talk about how strict he is all of the other time. He gets about one a week. The Rock, by the way, is one of the people that I look up to the most. If I ever get big enough to be able to have him on this show, that would be amazing. But he is hard work personified. He does not outwork a bad diet. He has a very good diet. He has a very clean diet. But again, look at him. Nobody can just become the way he is if they're eating pizza a couple times a week, if they're eating nachos on every Taco Tuesday because you prefer nachos and you want to load it up with cheese, or you want to eat 7 million cookies because cookies are your jam and they are amazing. If you do that, no amount of working out is going to be able to get you there. I was kind of doing that at the start, where I was eating myself under the table in culinary school, tasting everything, which to an extent you have to. But then even later as I was working in kitchens, because I did work up my way up to the level of executive chef, I was still eating and eating and eating, and I was tasting and tasting, and sure, French fries were readily available for me at just about every single place I worked. So, hey, I got to test these fries to make sure that they're good. All of a sudden, I'm eating probably the equivalent of 2 or 3 large fries in a night. And I plateaued hard. I was working out an hour and a half, 2 hours a day when I wasn't working in kitchens or going to culinary schools. And Wayne could probably attest to remembering me never being home because I was always at the gym or working. He's just giving me a look right now. But I hit a plateau. And you don't realize that those things are bad for you until you're not seeing any progress. All of a sudden, I didn't work in kitchens anymore. I wasn't having those French fries all the time. I started working here, and even then, I dropped 15 pounds within probably a month or two just from not eating French fries anymore. I mean, I love me some French fries, but that goes to show that you can't outwork anything. I can spend 2-3 hours in a gym. I could be working out. I can be doing as much cardio. I can spend an hour and a half on a treadmill. By the way, I hate treadmills. That's going to be a recurring joke as time goes on. Thanks for the likes. I appreciate that on Facebook. You're not going to be able to outwork it. In the end, yes, it is more complicated than calories in versus calories out to an extent, but to an extent, you have to follow that. If you are eating more than you are burning as a human being, you are going to gain weight. If you are eating way under, there is a such thing as starvation and your body going into fight or flight mode. And based on my experiences working here and dealing with other people online, most people are undereating. So if you're severely undereating and you're trying to work out for 2 or 3 hours a day, your body's going to burn out, you're going to get injured, and all of these other things are going to be happening to you, and weight loss isn't going to be one of them. It might, but it's going to be weight loss, not specifically fat loss. And let's clarify that real quick. You have fat loss and weight loss. Most people, when they say, I want to lose some weight, they're really saying they want to lose some fat. If you are eating way under, you're going to be losing muscle mass as well. And muscle mass is the last thing that you want to lose, unless you're thinking that you're going to look like a professional bodybuilder like Jay Cutler or one of those super muscly people, which, by the way, you're not going to. I'm going to talk about that in a second, too. You want to lose the fat, though. Everyone wants to lose their fat in their stomach. They want to be able to see their abs. They maybe want a slightly smaller butt. If not, they want smaller thighs. They want to get rid of, I've learned that the weight underneath your arm is called bra fat. I didn't know that until I started working here. That it all comes from fat loss. You want to maintain that muscle because that muscle is what helps you burn more calories. If you don't have any muscle, if you're not maintaining any of that muscle and it's going away, you're just basically shriveling up into a little shell. You want that muscle because muscle means you're strong. Muscle means you're burning calories. Muscle means you can do things. Muscle means you can run around with your kids. Going back to the whole eating what you want, Brian is saying, how about coconut cream pie? Everything in moderation, I guess, but you got to be careful with that. Maybe not a whole coconut cream pie. If you're like me, I don't like coconut. So Wayne is behind the desk going, I love coconut cream pie. So you got a fan with that, Brian. You got a friend there with Wayne. But make sure you're eating enough to sustain that muscle. That means if you are going into a fat loss, if you want to lose some fat, make sure you're getting protein with every single meal. 20 to 30 grams of protein with 3 to 4 meals a day. If you're just starting out, if you're not working out a ton, if you don't have a super active job, aiming to get those numbers will be really good. One other thing when it comes to that is toning muscles. I hear all the time that people don't want to get more muscle, they just want to tone. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, but your muscles don't get more toned. You just lose more body fat. And that's what makes everything show up. That's what makes it feel like you have those really lean-looking arms, those lean-looking legs. You have those abs. I just want to tone my abs. That's all I want to do. That is body fat. That abs, honestly, is probably the hardest thing to get down because that is huge into the nutrition. You can get good-looking arms and stuff like that by gaining muscle mass and reducing that fat. but you won't be able to do it all at once. There's no such thing as toning. There is becoming more lean, or there is becoming more fat, or less lean if you want to say it in a nice way. Let's talk about, and that actually leads into my next one, which was spot burning fat. I thought that I could get abs just by doing 1,000,000 crunches a day. I thought that I could just burn off that fat by doing those crunches. Number one, crunches are probably one of the least effective exercises to get abs. And number two, you can't spot burn fat. Your body wants to lose fat wherever it decides. You have zero choice in the matter. If you don't believe me, why is it some of the first places that people lose fat is in their face or their fingers and their hands? I guarantee you no one is like, oh man, my fingers are so fat, I just wish I could lose all of the fat from my fingers and that's it. It doesn't work that way. Your chest, your shoulders, ladies, especially in the chest, if you know what I'm talking about, and the butt, those things will all come in time. You just have to give it time to get that body fat down. And again, that comes with making sure that you are not necessarily being strict, because I'm going to talk about that in closing, but definitely making sure that you're on it and you know what you're doing. If you have no idea what you're doing and you just follow the fads, you might see some short-term results, but there's not going to be what you want. If you're a woman too, and this is something that I've heard a lot, again, working at a place that is primarily women, I think I crunched the numbers. I think here at Grand Blanc Fit Body Bootcamp, we're about 95% women, which is fine, I love it. But there's women versus men and their training protocols. And what that means is how they train, how they work out. There's not really a difference. Studies have shown that time and time again. A lot of that comes from working out in the 70s and the 80s with Richard Simmons coming in and doing, Richard Simmons I think was, don't get me wrong, I love Richard Simmons. He's probably one of the best coaches in terms of getting people motivated, but he didn't have the information back then that we do now for how to effectively train people. And again, that's not a burn on Richard Simmons. He worked with what he has, or which he worked with what he had, which was a lot, and he was very successful. But science has definitely evolved since then. And a lot of women think that they need to do lower weights for higher reps. So they're doing like 5-pound dumbbells with some dumbbell curls. And I'm using curls because I feel like everyone knows what curls are. And that's going to get them to tone their arms. Notice how all of these things kind of stack on top of each other, by the way. Being able to train that way is a choice, but men can do that, women can do that. There's no discretion there. The only reason that men usually get to heavier weights, and I say usually because I know some very, very, very physically strong women, the only reason is because men naturally have more muscle mass. They naturally have more, and that's because they have a lot more testosterone generally. That testosterone is what drives that whole muscle building factor, and that's why it builds strength. When you have a big muscle is a strong muscle, so men put that on a lot more easily. Women have a lot harder time. So when I hear a woman saying, oh, I don't want to look like that, in regards to even a more athletic woman or someone who's in the CrossFit space, who is a woman who has a very low body fat percentage, who looks in shape, and they're definitely healthy, it kind of drives me nuts because you have to work so hard as a woman to be able to look like that. With guys, and again, I hear it all the time, I can drop 5 pounds in a week, and I hear women say all the time, they can just look at a cookie and they gain 10 pounds. Doesn't actually work that way, but that's typically what I hear a lot, and it kind of drives me nuts because there's no reason that women should be afraid of picking up a slightly heavier dumbbell or a slightly heavier barbell even. That kind of training, that compound resistance training, is the most effective way for fat loss. You burn the most calories that way. This kind of leads me into the next one, which is bulking. You have to be in a calorie surplus. And for example, if I wanted to bulk, I'm at about 175 pounds right now. I just came out of a phase where I was trying to gain weight. I ended up gaining about 20. I'm about 5 pounds down because I'm bringing myself down now because I just wanted some more muscle mass for myself. I had to be eating about 3,500 to 4,000 calories a day, and that was with me trying to be really slow about it. For women to be able to bulk up to be the size of what they don't want, that's a lot of calories, ladies. I mean, I know a couple that can definitely eat anything put in front of them, but eventually you're going to get sick of eating. Eating 4,000, 5,000 calories a day, you get sick of eating. Eventually it just turns into, how can I shovel this down? I know someone else who has seriously thrown goulash in a blender and then drank it because they didn't want to put in the effort of actually chewing just so they could get the calories down. You don't have to do that if you're trying to get into shape. That is an extreme. I'm not about the extremes. The extremes work for about 1% of the population. What I hope to bring to everyone is what works for the other 99% or even 95%, because there are health issues that come into play. Tiffany Berker's going, yes. She definitely agrees with my comments about the whole muscle mass thing. With the whole eating and losing weight, there is also this myth that you eat less. I know a bunch of women, and again, it's not their fault. It is the fault of the fitness industry and pushing bad science over an extended period of time. I know women who will come in to the gym and they'll be eating 1,900 calories a day, and they think that's okay. They think that's what they need. They think that because they're eating that, they're going to be losing weight. They're going to be losing that fat that they want because they're only eating 900 calories a day. Number one, that goes back into you're going to be losing everything, not just fat. You're going to be losing muscle mass. You're going to be losing some bone density because you are literally starving yourself. Your body goes into starvation mode, and eventually it wants to hold on to everything as much as it can, and that goes back all the way through when food was actually scarce. We live in an age where food is in abundance. At least here in America we do. There are still places that have a really hard time with that, and food is very scarce. Many places in Africa, for example, in Asia, basically everywhere that isn't a first world country, food can be really hard to come by. But here, we have that abundance. So we don't have to fight what everyone else does because we can eat basically whatever we want. Oh, we want a pizza? It's $6. What? That's what I'm talking about. When you have that food, all of a sudden you have the good of, oh, hey, I'm overeating, which honestly, that's how America has gotten the way it is because food isn't scarce. And then all of a sudden people think that they just need to eat less. To an extent, yes, you need to not be eating 6,000 calories a day, but you definitely need to be able to need to be able to eat more than 1,000. I know a couple women who are 120 pounds, which to some people that I've talked to sounds like the absolutely most perfect, most amazing weight ever, and they're eating almost 2,000 calories a day. That's a woman eating 2,000 calories a day, and she's training for 45 minutes a day. Oh, thank you. This water magically appeared from my producer, the magical hands. I guess I did kind of need that. So make sure that you're eating enough. I'm not saying you have to go over, but there are different calculations. And if you ever need help, I'm definitely going to put this in show notes. By the way, show notes are totally going to be a thing for this. If I'm ever talking about something, I'm just going to make a reminder out loud like I just did, and I'm going to post a show note about it. I'll post it in the comments, and you'll also be able to find the show notes at DerekNoelFitness.com. There are different calculators you can use to see how many calories you should be eating. And for a lot of people listening to this, again, because the fitness industry pushes bad science all the time, you're going to go, holy crap, that sounds like way too much. But then all of a sudden you're going to eat slightly more, and then your body's going to go back into burning fat, and you're going to go, holy crap. Or you're going to eat a little too much, and you won't necessarily lose anything, and that's where we can be a little bit more specific. The other thing that I ran into a lot was supplements. For the longest time, I was ordering a lot of supplements. And Wayne's probably looking at me going like, yes, you were. Because it was kind of at the point where I was hiding how many I was actually buying, which I'm sure he had a good feeling of. And he's going, right now, because he's dead and he knows everything. But supplements are meant to supplement your diet. They're meant to supplement things that you don't get. They are not meant to replace anything. So when I see these meal replacement shakes, unless you have a super busy job where you can't sit down, if you don't get a 30-minute or an hour lunch, you really don't need to be having any shakes. If you're running around, if you're super busy all the time, nurses, I'm looking at you where you barely have time to sit down and eat, maybe a meal replacement shake is an adequate replacement, but nothing beats real food, real whole food. When you're eating those things, you get a lot of things just from eating vegetables, for example. If you eat a ton of vegetables, eat the rainbow is a good way to think about it. If you eat vegetables of a lot of different colors, you'll be getting pretty far in terms of nutrients. And then all of a sudden, oh, hey, maybe you don't need to take a multivitamin. By the way, I could go on a whole rant about multivitamins. That's another time. People who know me know that I can go off on tangents. I'm really trying hard to keep myself on track. But taking fat burners, for example. By the way, fat burners do not burn fat. They are a glorified caffeine pill. So if you want to use them for getting energy, for being able to be off the walls energetic, go ahead. And they'll also help suppress your appetite. But they don't help you burn fat. People talk about thermogenics. For example, this is me actually digressing because a lot of fat burners have cayenne in it, or like cayenne extract, so that it's not spicy. People go, oh, eat spicy food. It's going to burn more calories. Studies show it's a 0.4% increase to calories burned when you're eating spicy food versus not. So that eat spicy food matters to those people who are stepping on professional bodybuilding stages. But for you as a normal person, as the normal person walking around, eating spicy food versus not is not going to make any difference for you. There are many other things that you can do to be able to make those bigger changes. Real quick, I want to take a jump into the thread. I do want to thank everyone who is actually watching this right now. If you have any questions, by the way, feel free to ask them. You don't have to just sit silently in Facebook. If you were wondering how to get a hold of me, by the way, you can make it to Derek Noel Fitness. Like I said, I'm going to be posting show notes, some other bonus videos. For example, I may decide that I want to make a rant about fat burners or supplements. What's that? And we're actually going to take a quick break for a sponsor real quick.
Welcome to Your Story Told Live. Wirecast is the award-winning production software for streaming and recording high-quality live video. Transform your computer into a television studio, switching between live camera inputs while mixing in your movies, music, audio, and slides for that creatively professional look and feel. Wirecast, because if you've got a powerful message, it deserves to be told live.
And we are back. Special thanks to Wirecast for sponsoring this. It means a great deal. We are using their box right now to stream this. Hopefully this has been a pretty decent quality, pretty good quality show so far in terms of audio. And for those watching on Facebook and YouTube video, remember, if you can't watch, if you don't have the ability to watch, you can always listen at ipmnation.com/counterpunch because I am brought to you by Counterpunch Media, which is a good time. I love that name. I love their logo. I've been told that they love mine too because there's this. By the way, I will be placing orders for shirts, for Derek Noel Fitness shirts soon. So if you would like one, let me know what size you wear. I still have to figure out the pricing, but that is definitely going to be an option going forward. You should be able to find that stuff on DerekNoelFitness.com when it becomes available. That being said, just remember that this show will be on every Sunday night at 8 p.m., barring catastrophic reasoning, which shouldn't happen because catastrophes don't happen very often. But you can always go back and watch this on Facebook on my page, Derek Noel Fitness. If you just click this from the Facebook page, you can go to facebook.com/TheDerekNoel to find my page, to find my content. You can find me on Instagram at TheDerekNoel. I post some workout videos and stuff like that on there, some extra content. And of course, on ipmnation.com/counterpunch. Like I said, special thank you to Brian Brody, to Matt from IPM Nation, and to Wayne, and to Brian for allowing me to broadcast through this facility. Hopefully, you tune in next week. Have a nice night.